Hello everyone, thanks for coming tonight. Presentation mainly focuses on SEO, so Rob's given a little bit of an overview of a couple of top-level tactics. So this presentation will pretty much go into a whole range of different areas. With SEO, there's so many different areas. There's hundreds of areas you could talk about. Tonight we just threw a few ideas in here. So there's probably going to be something for everyone. If you're a big business or if you're a startup with one person, there might be something in here for you. So firstly, if you're using any of these social channels, please shoot us a tweet on Twitter if you're still on Twitter, Connections8, or feel free to jump onto SlideShare /Connections8. That's where the slides will be tonight. So if you miss something from these slides, it'll be on SlideShare, so you can go back and check out a link or whatever, because there's like 60 slides here to go over. All right, so how did I start in online marketing? From 2005 to 2009, I built a network of sites. So I had a MySpace layout site that got huge traffic. Back when MySpace was popular, I know we got quite a young crowd here tonight, so probably maybe only like 10% of the crowd had used MySpace, but there was huge traffic for MySpace. So we had a MySpace layout site and we got a bunch of traffic to that. Then we had a bunch of entertainment sites which focused on the US market. So we were pretty much ranking top 3 queries for these kind of key terms that were driving in hundreds of thousands of unique visitors every month to our sites. And we made a bunch of money back then. And when I was in school, people said, how are you getting all this money? Like, you're driving a brand new BMW. They said, are you selling drugs? And I said, no, I'm making money off AdSense. And back in 2005, not many people were really doing this in Australia. It was more something that was bigger in the US. In 2009, my parents said, you better go and get a real job because you can't do this online website thing anymore. So basically, I went and got a job at a big agency called Columbus Search. I started the SEO team with Peter up the back there. So we started that SEO team and we were basically working with some big name clients, David Jones, Citi Bank, Virgin Mobile. Virgin Mobile liked the work that I was doing so much. They said, come and work in-house. We'll pay $20,000 a month. They'll pay the agency that. I only got a small percentage of that. In 2012, I had enough of making a crazy amount of money for the agency, decided to go and start up our own business. So I started up Prosperity Media. We work with funded startups and mid to large businesses. We've worked with companies like Campaign Monitor, Design Crowd, and then some bigger companies like Macquarie University, Macquarie Telecom, and a whole bunch of other companies that I can't mention. So tonight's presentation, we've got 14 content and SEO tactics to drive growth. The first one is website speed. It's highly important. 1 second delay, if your site's making $100,000 a day, probably not many sites in Australia do that, but in the US, there's some big sites that do big revenue. So if your site is slow, it can cost you revenue. 1 second delay can cost 7% loss in conversions. So you really need to get your speed correct with your website. What that means is hosting your site locally, hosting it on AWS. A lot of people make the mistake where they host their site in Singapore or China or Amsterdam. The thing is, you want to host your website where your user base is. Another great tool, you can jump onto PageSpeed Developers tool by Google. You can put in your website and it will tell you how your website's going from mobile and from desktop. If you need to get your site fixed up, it will give you some little tips on how you can do that. We chucked in finder.com, as you can see. There's still a little bit of room for improvement, but yeah, ideally you want to have at least 80% on this. Landing pages are crucial. I know Rob talked a little bit about some landing pages. I mean, here's an example of a landing page that Finder has on their website. 32 sites like Omegle. And the thing is, when I was looking at Finder's website, I didn't even know what Omegle was until I checked out what type of volume that specific URL was getting. You can do this on semrush.com. Basically, you can see they were ranking first for keywords like with 14,000 searches a month. So if you're in first position organically, you might get 30 to 40% of that traffic, depending how many paid results there are. So you can say this one landing page is getting about 10,000 plus visitors a month. So yeah, comparison landing pages. An easy tactic if you're a business, you need a little bit of traction to do something like this. But for example, when you put in Campaign Monitor, chuck in VS onto that query, and it will show you what people are searching when they're in a buying funnel. So basically, Campaign Monitor versus Marketo, Campaign Monitor versus MailChimp, Campaign Monitor versus SendGrid. The thing is, you need to have landing pages on your site for all these kind of queries, because this is what users are looking for. And when they find these pages, you need to have an article that's kind of in your favor. The thing is, a lot of affiliates target this and they make an absolute killing because brands are kind of scared to do it in some cases. But brands that do this well really do well from a brand protection point of view. Also, ensure that you're using Google Keyword Tool. I mean, Google's always trying to restrict the amount of data that they'll give you. So you really have to be using your paid search data with Google Keyword Tool, with SEM Rush. You really need to compare all the sources to get the best results. Schema on all review content. This is something that you must implement on a website. Doesn't matter how big it is, jump onto schema.org. You might see queries now where they've got reviews, where they've got different actor listings, things like that. You can do this with schema.org. It's pretty simple. You just jump onto their website. They'll tell you all the different schemas for everything, events, organization, etc., etc. Copy and paste the code that you want and put it onto your website. It's as simple as that. So many companies don't do this, especially big brands, because they just, they're living in the past, or they've got a web team that isn't savvy and doesn't tell them to do things like this that take a matter of minutes to do. TPS site-wide. This is something that you should do. I was at an event last year and I was talking to Gary Isles, and he's a big Google guy, and he said, you really have to put HTTPS on any site. It doesn't matter if you're a corporate e-commerce site or if you're a memes website, he said. Put HTTPS on, because basically Google came out and they said that HTTPS is now a ranking signal. So you need it site-wide on your site. So many sites only have it on their shopping cart section. The thing is, you want to opt for a wildcard SSL. Wildcard SSL is basically where, see how Kogan has their little Kogan PTYLTD in the search bar? It's a trust metric. If you're a customer and you go to a website and you see that they have a wildcard SSL, you know that's a trustworthy website and that they've paid $200 to $300 for that SSL. Hreflang. This is a bit more technical, but if you've got a brand website and you've got a site in the UK, you've got a site in Germany, you've got an Australian site, you've got a site in New Zealand, you can basically use the same content on all those sites, but you drop on a Hreflang tag. Back in the old days, a lot of people used to make regionalized content for all different sites. Google came out a couple of years ago and said, look, we've got this Hreflang tags, please use them. There's a bunch of testing tools you can do that you can use to basically validate these tags. So there's a link to one. As I said, don't bother copying down links because we'll share it on SlideShare and you can grab them all. But if you've got a business that wants to go global and wants to roll out different websites, you really need to be using these tags, because they'll create a lot of traffic for your business. Canonical tags. A lot of businesses make the mistake where they don't use canonical tags and they have multiple versions of their website. The thing is, you need to use canonical tags if you've got duplicate content issues, because what a canonical tag basically does, it tells Google which is the main page that you want to index. There's a little graph to show. So if you've got 3 pages that are the same, you can basically chuck a canonical tag onto all those 3 pages, and that will have one page indexing in Google. I remember when we were working for David Jones back in the day, one of their developers didn't consult with the agency and they rolled a canonical tag for the homepage site-wide onto their whole e-commerce site. And then instantly the site basically started de-indexing itself. So that was a huge nightmare, and basically they contacted the agency and said, what's happening? And they said, well, who's the developer that made this change? Like, you've basically stuffed it. And that happens a lot. A lot of big businesses that have in-house development teams, they think they know about SEO, but really they've just read a couple of blogs and they've played around a little bit. It's always good to consult with an agency. And we get a lot of calls where people are like, oh, we're moving a site in a couple of weeks, or like, we need to get this happening now. You really have to get your SEO guys on early in the process to ensure that problems don't happen down the line. Content marketing, it's kind of a big deal, and we've got a couple of little examples here. So this was an example of something that we did for a brand. Basically, we wanted to engage the followers and get them involved in the content creation process. So we went onto their Facebook and said, hey, we're looking for some pet peeves in the gym. We're going to turn it into an infographic. What we did was we collected that data from Facebook and then we made a graphic out of it. And when it was finished, we went and shared it back with the followers. The thing about this is you can involve your social followers into the content creation process. What this does, it influences the sharing of the article. People feel like they're more in touch with the brand. Create content for niche communities like Reddit. This is something we did for another client. We were searching what's technical content that people on Reddit will like. We basically we looked and there was all this content around Microsoft certification exams and things like that. We built a long form piece of content. We shared that up on Reddit on an aged account with a bit of authority, and it went gangbusters and drove like 15,000 visitors to the site. So the thing is, you need to build content that's relevant for a specific niche community. Always remember to create a content calendar at the start of the year and basically think about all the events that are happening throughout the year. A lot of brands forget to do this at the start of the year. You can sit down and think about, okay, what's happening in October? We've got Halloween, we've got the AFL Grand Final, we've got the NRL Grand Final. In November, we've got the Melbourne Cup. Okay, we're a gambling business. How can we monetize these events? And the thing is, when you think about the content creation process early on in the year, you can pre-launch this content before the event happens. A lot of brands basically think on a week-to-week basis. They don't think on a long-term play basis. And you need to really do this with any content marketing that you're doing. This is a little example of a creative web app content that a brand built. Basically, it will tell you how much coffee you need to drink before it will kill you. So you put in your weight, and then it will tell you how many cups of coffee it will take it will actually kill you. This piece of content had 115,000 shares, had hundreds of links to it. So something like this, it's quirky and it's cool. And the thing is, basically, it will get shares and it will get traffic and it will get traction. And for a developer to build something like this, it's not that hard from a development point of view. I mean, you can outsource it to freelancer.com. Maybe it'll cost $400. Or you can do it in-house. It might cost a little bit more. Thumbtack. This was a great example that they did. Every year, this company called Thumbtack, it's like OneFlare or High Pages in the US. Basically, they build this small business friendliness survey and they send it out to all their customers. And it's kind of like earlier, getting your customers involved in the content creation process. And what this does is, this every year it has thousands of shares, it gets hundreds of links to it because people want to know about what's happening in the small business area. So if you've got a business, try and use your customer data to build content from that. If you're time poor and you don't want to contact your customers, you can use Google Consumer Surveys. You can pay a couple of dollars for each reply. You can build out a survey and send it on Google Consumer Surveys, and you only pay for a per entry basis. And what this does, it allows customers to kind of create, or potential customers to build out your content for you. If you go to an age-old, basically like a focus group or something like that, they'll charge you thousands and thousands of dollars to do this. Don't do it. Jump onto Google and do it for free. I mean, not for free, like a couple of dollars per answer. Ego bait content. This is another one that we did for a client a couple of years ago. Basically, we built a list of the top 10 Twitter users in finance. So we had big guys like David Koch, Alan Kohler. The thing was, the big boys didn't want to share it because they're too big to share a small business or affiliates brand. But we had some smaller guys that were 8 or 9 on the list. One person went gangbusters. They basically built out a PR release about being featured. They shared it on all their social. This actually did quite well. But the thing is, you can scale this out and you can build ego-based content on a larger scale and get more people involved into the process. Backlinks are kind of a big deal. Robert said earlier, he gave a few little examples about stealing backlinks and doing things with backlinks. So there were some good tips. The thing is, with SEO, these are some ranking factors over here. So you've got backlinks, which are about 40% of ranking. Then there's some other factors. This survey is actually from Moz. So you can jump on there, search for like Moz ranking factors. it will tell you most of the ranking factors. So the main one is, backlinks. Then there's on-page and content. There's technical elements, social data, keyword agnostic factors, etc., etc. Competitive link acquisition. Rob said this earlier. Majestic, it's a good one. You can also use RFs. The thing about RFs, it's built by Russians. So basically, they're like I have the founder of this company on Twitter, and the other day he put out a tweet. He said, "I have just purchased 1,000 new servers." He. And then someone replied and said, "What are you planning now, Dimitrov?" Or whatever. And basically, the thing about Ahrefs, it's probably the fastest tool on the linkscape market in terms of picking up fresh links. The thing about Moz, I think they've gone a bit too broad in terms of their market. They're building tools on all different areas, and I find the thing is they don't update their link graph every 90 days. Ahrefs updates their link graph every day or two, so it's definitely good. High quality link acquisition, you can still do content placements on sites, but you need to be careful. A lot of big brands have been hit in the past by doing paid content acquisition on sites and using generic anchors. The thing is, you need to be savvy about how you're doing content placements. You don't want to be spammy. You don't want to do the same thing over and over on a large degree. Sharing your best deals on deal sites. So OzBargain, Retail Me Not, Vogue forums. I mean, I've got a friend who owns a cruise affiliate website, and basically what he does, every week he schemes up one of his best deals and gets it onto OzBargain. He gets a couple of thousand visitors a week from OzBargain, just because if you get on the homepage of OzBargain, they've got tens of thousands of deal hunters on that site every day looking for deals. The thing is, you need to have a cheap as chips deal, because if you go on there with an expensive deal, I remember it was 2 or 3 years ago, StartCon said, we've got 50% off, can you share it on all different places? And I chucked it on OzBargain. I absolutely got roasted because $150 is too expensive for these people on OzBargain. They want free or they want cheap as. So if you've got a good deal, check it out. Retail Me Not, Vogue forums. There's so many good sites out there with deals. Even check out Deal Extra, Rob's site. Targeted forum link acquisition. You can search for relevant forums online, business forums, startup forums. Try and get onto that forum and build a bit of a persona. Don't just go onto the forum and just spam willy-nilly, drop links and things like that, because most of the time they'll delete you. If you go onto a forum and you build a little bit of a brand up, answer some questions, and then after about 20 posts, drop a link to your website, you can get good traffic. The thing is, some old school forums in Australia like whirlpool.net.au, they rank very well for a lot of buying kind of keywords. So the thing is, you need to be savvy about how you do this. You don't want to be spammy. You want to do it and be classy with it, really engage with that community. Don't just go on in there and drop links like crazy, because they will ban you and it does look spammy. But if you do it from a high-end point of view, it can work. Low quality links, disavow them or take them down. Basically, you also need to be on the lookout for negative SEO. A lot of people don't know what negative SEO is. Negative SEO is when a competitor or someone who doesn't like your business will just come in and blast your website using something like XRummer. What you need to do is you need to be proactively checking your link profile on a week-to-week basis. We have a lot of clients that are affiliates in the US, and they're the type of clients that can be targeted by negative SEO because they're quite lucrative industries. So a competitor will come in and basically hit their site with a blast, and some of these blasts can be quite sophisticated. They can target lower level pages on the site. And the thing is, a lot of people say, oh, negative SEO doesn't work, Google's aware of it. The thing is, we've seen sites get taken down by people who want to target them. I know a guy in Brisbane who paid $40,000 for a domain in the insurance niche, and someone hit his site with negative SEO. Then he was trying to sell that same $40,000 domain for $2,000. So he lost $38,000 from negative SEO. So it does exist. Content seeding. If you build content, you need to share it. A lot of content marketing agencies in Australia, they're like, yeah, we can build you a fantastic piece of content for $10,000. But then they're like, what's your content seeding strategy? And a lot of them say, well, we'll just share it on your site, share it with your friends. The thing is, you need to be a bit savvy about how you do that. So how are some organic ways you can share content? Share it on your website, share it with your email, share it on social, share it on forums. do some posts about that content. You can get a bit more tricky with paid. Do a paid ads campaign to your content marketing. Do a sponsored social update for your content. Do a Facebook boost, social media ads, content discovery, Taboola, Outbrain. You really need to get involved with everything. Review competitors' most shared content. Build similar content. Use Ahrefs or buzzsumo.com. Basically, put in your competitor's site and it will tell you what are the most shared URLs on that site. Then you can go through and say, oh, okay, they've built an article about Google authorship and it's got 1,200 shares on Twitter. I'm going to build something similar for my site. I mean, you can reverse engineer anything. It's like reverse engineering backlinks. You can reverse engineer content as well. High-end expired domain acquisition. The thing is, every day in Australia and the US, domains are expiring. You need to be careful about if you want to go and acquire a domain. Our advice, because a lot of clients ask about this, is if you're going to acquire something that's generic, it's not trademarked, and it's something that has a good link profile. Here's an example, about a year or two ago, government organization let the domain training.com.au expire, and it went to the expired domain auctions, and people bought it for $30,000. So some affiliates snapped up that domain. They've built it into like an affiliate lead gen site, and they're killing it now. Like they've been making a huge amount of money off this domain. So the thing is, you need to be searching for these domain opportunities. The thing is, the domain space is kind of convoluted now. Like there's a lot of retirees that get onto like domain expiring sites every day, and that'll be like the first thing they do. Like there's a guy up in Queensland called Nettie. He's like 74, and every morning he'll just get his cup of coffee, get in front of his computer and look at like all expired domains. And this guy makes an absolute killing. He's retired and he's just finding domains. So you can do it, but you need a lot of time and you need to be researching. There are more effective ways you can do it, but yeah, that's a whole nother story. Website acquisition for content growth. A lot of people once you start getting bigger and you like kind of exhaust a lot of your strategies, you can start thinking about website acquisition. So like for cheap websites, you can jump onto flipper.com. Every day they're selling websites. You got to be careful because there's some dodgy sites on there. Like try and buy, if you're going to buy something on Flipper, buy something with authority, something that's been around for at least 5 years, something that has a decent link profile. If you've got a bit of budget, you can talk to a broker. A mate of mine in the US, he runs a company called Raincatcher. They deal with high-end websites, so websites that are selling for, I think it's like 100,000 to 10 million. So they do a lot of sales in that space, and yeah, you got to be careful when you buy a website. The thing is, you can just go randomly out to anyone. If you see a good site, just check up the who is data and say, hey, you guys want to sell it? What price are you offering? The problem is a lot of people in Australia, they'll just say, oh yeah, I'll sell the site, but it's going to be like $100,000, and it's a site that's only making $1,000 a month. Like you say, yeah, you're dreaming. I only want to pay 2 years revenue or whatever. So you have to do a lot of negotiations. It's like buying domains. We bought the .com for our business. Originally, they wanted $26,000 for the domain. We got it down to $2,600 from negotiation. And the way we did that is this guy had like 100,000 domains that he owned, and we looked to see when a large percentage of those domains were expiring, and we said, hey, like at the end of financial year or whatever, we said, hey mate, how about like 2,600? And he instantly said yeah, because he needed the money for renewing his huge portfolio of domains. Okay, so there's a little bit of information. I mean, I could talk for hours and days about this stuff. But basically, we've got a few tools for everyone as well. Like a lot about SEO, there's some good tools you can use. You can get more information. So Screaming Frog Analysis, this is a really good tool. It's got a weird name, but it's built by a company in the UK. So you can drop your website into that, and it will tell you all the technical problems. You can basically export this data to CSV and do some analysis. It's quite a good tool. If you're a developer and you're testing staging sites, it's good for that as well. SEMrush.com. This tool is about, I can tell you the prices. This tool is about £90 a year, so it's quite cheap. This tool is about $79 a month. Maybe it's $90 a month now. But basically, SEM Rush, you can look at what your competitors' websites are ranking on from an organic point of view. You can also look at what your competitors' sites are targeting from paid search. So that's quite useful if you want to scrape some ad data and things like that. Ahrefs.com, as I said, it's built by Russians, so definitely check it out. It's quite a useful tool. Monitor backlinks. If you're really paranoid about getting hit with negative SEO, check out Monitor Backlinks. I think it's built by some guys in like Bulgaria or something. It's quite good. smo.noam.com. The thing about sites now, you want to have them marked up for social media. You can mark up your sites for Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and standard SEO. So basically, you just drop in your URL into this tool, and it will say what your site's marked up for or what it's not marked up for. So it's a very cool tool. And it will even give you a link on how to mark it up. Systrix.com, this is an expensive tool, but it looks at search visibility. It's quite useful if you want to look at like sites that are growing rapidly. Like for example, looking at new startups, you can look at like sites that are in a certain date range. It can be quite a cool tool. Answer the Public. This is a tool that Peter found. Basically, it will show you like queries that you can build content based off. Say, for example, if you want to talk about growth hacking, this tool tells you what people are searching for. So you can, like people are searching for how does growth hacking work, how to learn growth hacking. And the thing is, if you've got like a growth hacking training center, you can build landing pages based on these queries from this tool. So you can drop pretty much any query into this tool. It's pretty cool. It's free as well. The thing is, Google Search Console, you want to be checking this site on like a daily basis or a weekly basis, depending on how big your site is. Because Google Search Console will tell you problems with your site. It will tell you if your site's been hit with a Google penalty. Sometimes if you get hit with a penalty, it can be a nightmare. So yeah, getting out of that penalty can be a whole nother story. Bing Webmaster Tools. This is another tool that a lot of people don't even know exists, but basically Bing has their own kind of Google similar tool, and they provide a lot more data than Google does. It's quite useful, so jump on there and get onto Bing, because I mean, in Australia, Bing doesn't have that much traffic. It's less than 3 or 4% market share, but in the US, it's a lot higher. So if you've got a startup that's targeting the US, check it out. So yeah, that's pretty much everything. I mean, a lot of content. Like I said, the slides will be on SlideShare, so if you want to check out anything in more detail, yeah, check it out.
Thanks. Has the rise of mobile search changed SEO?
Yeah, I think a lot of brands have been more savvy about getting mobile websites built. The thing is, like Google, like a year ago said there was going to be mobile Armageddon, and there was a couple of SEOs that were putting videos out saying, oh, every like non-mobile site's going to drop out of the index, get a mobile site ready. And the thing is, that didn't really happen, like because a lot of ASX listed companies don't even have mobile sites, so Google's just not going to de-index like BHP Billiton's site. So the thing is that mobile's becoming more and more prevalent. And the thing is, like Google said they have a split index now for mobile and desktop, and there's a lot of different mobile ranking factors. So the thing is, you definitely need a responsive site that's viewable on mobiles. And the thing is, you need a site that has capabilities to actually sell on mobile as well, because 30 to 40 to 50% of conversions take place on mobiles now. And we had a prospect recently, and they're like site, you weren't actually able to buy on mobile. So it was crazy. We're like, this should be like your highest priority, because 30 or 40% of your customers are coming through on mobile and they're not actually able to purchase. They could only call up to get a quote. So yeah, it was things like that. So mobile is very, very important. I mean, yeah, I could definitely have a whole presentation about mobile SEO. And there's even like a mobile conference in the US where they just talk about mobile. So it's big. So yeah.
What's the hardest part of SEO?
Yeah, the hardest part of SEO is just like trying to stand out from all the dodgy players in the space. That's one thing. Like 90% of companies out there have no clue what they're doing. They're just trying to rip people off. So that's one hard part of SEO. Another hard part is just staying up to date with Google. Google can release a drastic change and just throw up a blog post on their site and say like, we're going to do this, and like there's no forewarning. So you can't really rely upon SEO. You really have to diversify your traffic sources. And yeah, I think like dodgy SEOs and Google is the hardest part of SEO, just staying up to date with all their changes and ensuring that your site is not going to breach any of their new regulations. So yeah.